This is a little primer into the natural number system that I have prepared in conjunction with the PDF I already uploaded for your convenience. What is the natural number system? Well, basically it is a method to transcribe music into Arabic numbers instead of using jazz chord labels or something like that. Originated in the studios of Nashville and has since moved beyond that, of course. What is basically the advantage of using this system is that you can take let's take a scale right here and build chords over it, and usually what we would do now is label each of them. Yes, C major, D minor, E minor, F, G, A, B diminished. But now we just use numbers, and to indicate the quality we use the dash or the minus sign for the minor and nothing for major. And of course, if you have the diminished, then we just use the diminished sign. The benefit for this is if we take another key, for example, and build something on D major, the numbers basically stay intact. Nothing changes for the chords, and so we can use the system in any key that we want. This system is so effective and useful that it has been used at Liberty University, the studios of Nashville, and has since found more and more foothold in the local church as well. Even overseas. And you see, I think overseas I start speaking with a German accent, which of course is my nationality anyway, so I hope you excuse my sometimes mispronounced words. I think we can best understand or infer the Nashville number when we start comparing it to the Roman numerals that you should be familiar with. So we take the Roman numerals and the Nashville numbers and look at what they have in common. There we first see they are both numbers-based systems. So we have the 1, the 2, and so forth. But of course now we use different descriptors here for the dynamics. Scratch that, not the dynamics, but the quality of the chords. So as you can see the comparison here, so far nothing has changed much, but the differences will come soon. So let's have a look at the differences between the systems. Let's start and get rid of this with the secondary dominance, for instance. Let's start with the most common one, the 5/5, which in C major would be a D, F sharp, A, so with a chromatic alteration to the F sharp, creating a D major chord, which is a major 2, basically. So what does Nashville number call it? Major 2. That's it. You note that the minus is gone. Let's take another one, 5/6 or 5/6, secondary dominant 5/6. You've guessed it, it's major 3. That's the whole gist of the old gist of the system. But looking at this difference right here, lets us see the main philosophical difference between Roman and Nashville. Roman numerals, they are harmonically functioned, while Nashville numbers looks at the relationship to the tonic. Roman numerals look for the harmonic function of the chord. Even though it looks like it major 2 chord, it actually functions harmonically in our first case. It functions as a secondary dominant, a 5 of 5, and so this 5 here indicating a temporary tonicization. Nashville numbers couldn't care less about this, and they just call it a 2. And so they just look to the relationship to the tonic. This is a major 2 in relationship to the tonic. Another difference occurs when we look at the inversions. So what I've done here is giving you the first 2 inversions of a triad, a 1-6 and a 1-6-4, which in Nashville looks a little bit different. You see it's a 1/3, and the 1-6-4 would be a 1/5. Again, we see here the harmonic function versus the relationship to the tonic. But let's first, before we go there and look at that a little bit more closely, check out the 7th chords when we have the inversions of a 4-tone chord. It's a 5-6-5, a 5-7/7, a 4-3-4, 5-3-4, a 5-7/2, and a 5-4-2, a 5-7/4. So we see in the lower numbers, this is always what is played in the bass, while this here is the chord over the bass. And you can see how this makes sense in a studio recording session where the bass player doesn't have to read weird inversion marks, but just looks at what's underneath the dash. And here the confusion usually comes in, because this is not a secondary dominant function. This indicates in Nashville numbers the inversion. And I think it becomes also very clear that the harmonic function and the relationship to the tonic, as they are shown by the marks or the nomenclature, becomes very visible here as well. Where the Roman numerals doesn't show what pitch actually goes in the bass, it has to be inferred. Nashville says in relationship to the tonic, the bass is a 4 or a 2 or a 7 and so forth. Let's move on to the 7th chords, where we have in the Roman numerals the following series that you should be familiar with a dominant 7 here, and the major 7 here, a diminished 7 here, and a half diminished 7 here. The corresponding Nashville numbers look as follows. The only difference we see here is actually that we have a different symbol for the major 7. It's indicated by this delta or triad. And sometimes we also find a different way of writing the half diminished 7, which gives us something like this. Let me just quickly fix this. Whoa, this is so wrong here. Excuse me. 7 diminished 7, or 7 half diminished, but sometimes we have a 7 moving on to handling chromatics. We see here that secondary functions, as written in an inversion, have to indicate the altered pitch, again in relationship to the tonic. This is a sharp 4. Augmented 6 chords are just written like this. Flat 6/7 and Neapolitan chords are written like this. Flat 2/4. Minor keys. They are all diatonically written in the natural minor. So if you have any alterations to what happens in the natural minor, you have to indicate this by either a flat, a natural, or a sharp. There's one convention though. The 7th chord is written either in major, which is the natural minor, or the 7 diminished, but you don't add the sharp 4, the sharp in front of it. So that concludes this lesson. I hope you have fun and this was at least a little bit helpful. Please give me feedback since this is the first time me doing this.